கருணை அருட்பெருஞ்சோதி எல்லா உயிர்களும் இன்புற்று வாழ்க வள்ளல் மலரடி வாழ்க வாழ்க. So, if the body is gone, there is no surety of getting another body. So while it lasts, understand the God and be one with Him, is what Vallal Perumanar said to us. So this underlines how important the body is, how we should take care of the body. As Saint Thirumalar did also say about it. Initially, he thought the body wasn't a good thing to have. But eventually he understood that there is something in it and which he has to worship and take care of it. So all the saints and siddhas have been consistently emphasizing on how we should take care of our body. Vallal Perumanar has gone deep into it, has gone so deep so that you can even write books on it. So the parameters of each food, the attributes of those food qualities are being exposed by him. And some of them have been scientifically, that can be correlated now to see how good it is. And some of it have still not been researched to show its real impact. So what we are going to see today is about how food can help us and how actually it has an impact on our regimen, which is our day-to-day life, and how it shapes us to form a nice human being, and mostly how it helps during our enlightenment process as well. Because if the body is lost, if we do not take care of the body, then Perumanar says clearly that this body is where you can take it to a transcendental state. So no other body has the privilege of getting to that state. So it is very important that we all take care of our body as outlined by Vallal Perumanar. When saying about the factors which destroys our body, Perumanar points out to four main classifications. So it says about food, and then sex, then sleep, and then fear. These are the four factors which can destroy our body, in which when we take a scale of 10, he's saying food and sex are the most important in the four, and in which food contributes to 9 out of 10. So this tells how important food has to be taken care, and which we all, including myself, takes it for granted for most of the time. So how is food related with the mind? Suttha Sanmargam's food is nothing but pure Sattvic food. Pure Sattvic is in Tamil what we call it as Sattvam. Sattu is aliyadadu. The etymology of the word tells the action and what it is going to do. So that is the beauty of Tamil as a language, right? So pure sattvic food is our Suttha Sanmargam's food, and which helps us to extend our life as pointed by Vallal Perumanar. One thing which we want to highlight here is there is no meat or no non-vegetarian food involved in this sattvic food. So this is a point which we want to highlight in here. And mind is also made of food, as pointed by Nagaraj Aya. So there are subtle elements of the food which helps in the formation of the mind. So we drive on a daily basis. We go and someone cuts us off in the road. At the time, how do we feel about it? Do we want to yell at that person? Or do we want to give him a whack? Or do we want to say, okay, he might be going in a hurry? It all depends on how we are going to react, how our emotions are tied with, or what state we are. And there is a lot of thing which happens, and we don't realize how much food actually contributes to those aspects of it. So when looking into the classification of the food types, we can say Sattvic food, as outlined by Vallalar, is what is being recommended, which keeps us calm, relaxed, in a serene manner. The next type of food is Rajyasik food, which gets us all excited, performs us to be hyped up, uh, emotional. It helps us stimulating food like salty, too much spiciness in it can cause you stimulant to go up. So it's not just salt and spice, but there are other foods, which basically can bump those stimulants up too. And some of these things we really have to feel for ourselves. After you had a good food, do you feel like going to bed and you just want to lie down and don't want to do anything else? It is definitely a tamasic food. It is a lethargic food, which you don't feel nothing but just to sleep and be dull, and you don't want to do anything. Maybe watch TV. TV itself might be even a tough job when having a good tamasic food. So these are all kind of food which we have been going through on a daily basis. It's just we are not concentrating on what's happening when we are eating, including myself, and which I'm trying to change as well with all of us. The main food, the Suttha Sanmarga food, which Vallalar refers to, is food which does not rot, which does not decay, which does not go bad. So before going to it, we also have to consider that changes which we have gone through recently, the technological advancement, the adulteration in the food too. Because Vallalar, in the list of sins, he points out, did I sell mixing grains with stones? So he talks about adulteration. He considered that as a sin even. But right now, the food is so adulterated, which we have to be really cautious of and to pay attention on the ingredients. Is it genetically modified? Is it organic? Is it a trusted source? It's up to us actually to find the right kind of food and to do the due diligence to see if the food is of the right quality. So the food actually recommended by Perumal is definitely the food which does not rot, and jaggery is something which he does refer to use in multiple places, in tea or in coffee, or wherever is possible. Some people use it in sambar or in multiple different food, but we have to make sure that it does not have sulfur contaminated or included in it too. So most of the time, when you look at the food labels, that has sulfur included in it. At least 50% of the jaggeries which is being sold in here, sold in the United States, has sulfur in it too. So just want to bring it up. So we just don't uh, buy whatever Perumanar is suggesting, and we finally say like, oh, things are not working because. Uh, working for me, right? So we have to make sure that we are doing it right too. We are playing our part well as well. Honey. This is the benefits of honey is humongous, as outlined by multiple folks. But honey, we have to be very careful with honey to make sure that honey is pure. It is not filtered. It is not heated. It is not pasteurized. So these three things have to be really be noted when buying a honey. So trying to get honey as pure as possible with no artificial stuff added to it or no processing done to it is the key there. So raw, unfiltered honey is the best to use, and I think most of the time it's been labeled outside the country when it goes out to rock sugar. This is called kalkande, which I have, which there is a picture which we have there, and we that's been actually taken either from brown sugar or like palm sugar or white sugar. uh, all of them is good for health. All of them is definitely good for health, but we just have to make sure that too, the source is good, and we look out for the ingredients to see if there is any preservatives added or any colorings added, which happens sometimes too. Ayan Chinduram and Tamara Basmam is something which also is being recommended as an unrotten food. But from the analysis which I have performed, and Nagarajaya can speak more on it, those things are have to be consumed in a much supervised manner. And when we talk about ayam is nothing but iron, and chenduram is powder. So if you're talking about a metal which has been converted to a powder, and the process is a tedious process, and it has to be under direct supervision of who who we can trust or who is really had gone through that process, rigorous process in a perfect manner. So these are some things with cautions which we have to undertake. When I initially looked into this list a couple of years back, I went analyzing about Ayan Chinduram and Tamarapasmam because I said, how if I can run my life just with unrotten food, right, which Perumanar has suggested. I wasn't able to find lots of things with Ayan Chinduram and Tamarapasmam. And more and Tamaram is nothing but copper, actually, and Pasmam is again is a powder. It's probably a different kind of process to it. But I wasn't able to find lots of information on the Chendurams and Pasmams. Even though some sell it and some don't sell it, and from my analysis, this is what I'm seeing it. But it doesn't just stop here. Permanar actually goes deep into it, talks about water, salt, other good things, vegetables, fruits, whatever we can consume, what we cannot consume, all those and all those foods. So we can work with something which we get on a regular basis with no processing involved too. There are 21 Indriya Olukams. And for mouth, actually, there are three which Perumanar specifies. And the first one is like dislike for taste. So a dislike for taste doesn't mean that we get stranded in a place where we don't have access to food. and we are eating it because that's the only option available, or it's because of a spouse are cooking for us, and we really don't have an option available, right? That's it's neither that or nor the other one. So dislike for taste means it has a deeper meaning in it, and what it really means is when we consume food due to the taste of it. If we like the taste of the food, we consume a lot of food. So that has to be avoided. So due to the taste of food, we have to be cautious of not overeating the food as well as not undereating the food too. And we have to consume the food based on our hunger level. So that is actually what the dislike of taste is, so that we actually eat the food, the right quantity of food. So that is the main important with the dislike of taste. So without getting attached to it in a way, we don't consume too much, or we don't even take too little too. So most of the traditions in the world actually, what they do is they perform prayers before eating food, and I'm sure even some traditions along our side do the same thing. And sure, there are reasons behind performing prayers in it. And the idea, as outlined, is as we eat and as we actually have the thought process of thinking about God at the time of food, we will slowly start to come away, or our detachment towards food would start happening. And this is a gradual process. This process is going to take a long time, and it's not easier to get it, which can be tried too. And this helps us in multiple ways. This is what really a dislike for taste means. And I'm sure at some point of time, we can work on the sweetness of talking and also not lying and getting into details on it. But let's now focus on the food area. So now we know how to consume our food, and how to how to be conscious of how much we are eating. Let's go ahead and see what Permanar says
Yes,
as.
yes.
So let's see Perumanar in Nitya Volukam. So on a day-to-day activity, he goes in great detail of how basically how basically you have to lead your life for an ordinary person, for an aspirant who wants to get to the next stage, and then for the real Suttha Sanmargi, how it has to be. So what we have done is we have actually combined all those together to put in one place. So overall, we get an idea like what is good and what's not good. So let's go over it. So in general, Permanar says we have to use less tamarind, less chili for spice, uh, less salt, but more peppercorns for increasing the spice, and more cumin as well. Cumin is seer agam, right? So seer, like the etymology of the word says, seer agam. Agam is the body. Seer agam is it keeps our body. It's our in a consistent manner, right? Keeps it fixes our body. It keeps us in the right way. So seeraga vaithirithal. So seer agam. So the name says for itself. So peppercorns and cumin are something which he recommends a lot to be used in our food actually during our cooking. And he also recommends cow ghee, which we can use it for frying. And if not possible, and if it's expensive, to go with to go with sesame oil, which is nallanai, and less amount of onion or garlic can also be used as well. But Perumal is so gracious on it; he knows about us. So if he has to say there is no fried food, I don't know how many people will react to it. So he says, have fried food too, but use it on a rare occasion, right? So he always has his thought process around us. He always thinks about us. He's like, oh, how can I get people, right? How can I get people? So even he says one time, like, igate parattai, igate parattai. So he's one saint, he's one guru which we had got him, who can take us to through his path in this lifetime. So that is something which we have to follow. So he also says take fried food, but do it in rare occasions, right? He definitely suggests no meat of any kind at all. He says no meat, no, a big no for meat. That always happens. Beetle leaves 3 times a day, and oh, there's a picture of the beetle leaf too. And 3 times a day with the right proportion, and I'm sure we can just talk about the proportion, how to eat it in a big topic as well, because he tells what can be mixed with it, and what is the proportion, how much lime or sunambu, what we call as, right? And then how much nut you have to use in the morning, and in the afternoon how does it differs, in the night how does it differs. So this beetle leaves is no stranger to us. Our grandparents have been using. We can still see in villages where they use it a lot. They they are healthier. They walk good. They don't get backache like us. They don't have any issues with the bones. You know, they walk, they run when in their older age. They don't have to have hip replacement surgeries and issues with bones and stuff. Those are all good stuff. But in due course of time, with with adding all those flavors to it, what they call as bida, or the different aspect of it, things it basically gave we actually let the beetle leaf down by giving it a wrong impression that beetle leaves are not good for consumption. But they're really great. They're really great, and I'm even trying to get one for my home in here as well. Okay. Then about the quantity, he says the dinner quantity have to be way less than the food which we eat in the daytime. So since we are going to take a big nap or sleep after it, our workout time after our dinner is way less. So that has to be why he's saying our dinner time, our we have to actually consume a little bit less food, even less food compared with our daytime. And then definitely no leftovers or old food. Refrigerator comes to mind thinking about it. Um, uh, Guilty of this too. Guilty of this for sure. We consume it too, even though we follow lots of things. We have got rid. We haven't been using microwave for a long time, but getting rid of refrigerator is not an easier one. But so he does also suggest, right? No leftover or old food. This means you basically cook and eat it fresh every single time. How easy it is. It's not. It's a full-time job we are talking about. It's a full-time job for someone in the family to do it, and to and to do it. But it has its own advantage. We to us these days, food is important when we get sick, when something doesn't go wrong, right. That's when food is important. That's when we take a look at the food. But it could be too late when we come there. It might not be the right time, right? And things actually, these things are to be followed gradually, and then we would reach up to a point where it is perfect. So at one day or a couple of months we practice this, it's not going to happen. So it has to be years and years and years. We slowly start practicing it, and we get into a phase we are completely in it, and we are submerged in it, and that becomes our day of life. And after that, there will be no going back. Now we don't even think about microwave. People are surprised when they come to home, like, oh, you don't have a microwave? It's like, why do we need a microwave? My mom doesn't have one. We haven't been using it. It was a luxury before, but no, we didn't need it. We understood the disadvantage of it, and we have removed it, right? So once we start getting into the conscious, we start questioning each and everything, like how Perumal says Sattvic, right? Question it, think through it. Is our right from the morning to is the one which we put in our teeth, our paste. What are the ingredients in our paste? Do we understand the ingredients in our paste? If we cannot understand, it's not the right thing to use. So how about the soap? Do we see it? Is it the right one? We do our own soaps too for the last 2 years, but there are good soaps in our in the market. There are lots of things which are good too. So we have to basically do our own due diligence to get in the right track. Every single thing what we do, even water too. Like what do they add? Chlorine, chloramine, fluoride. There are lots of things, right? So getting back to the subject, after no leftovers or old food, no gassy cold food. So this pretty much clearly tells or is correlating with the above point. So you eat food fresh. So we want to eat food fresh after it's cooked on a daily basis, every day, every time. And hopefully only 3 times a day, or two is even good as suggested. So the last one is, if you don't have an appetite, don't go for it. So if you're not hungry, basically there is no reason to eat food. And I think even though we have started changing ourselves with my kids and stuff, like they're not hungry, we are not forcing them. uh, I've been at least brought up in a way that you have to basically follow up the time, like, oh, 8 o'clock is your breakfast time, 12 o'clock is your lunch time, there's a dinner time at 8 o'clock. There might be snack time in between too, just like 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the evening, where you have to munch on something. So these are the practices which we had which we had been going through, which we had been following, and this point questions it. It tells like, oh, are we hungry to eat my next bite? If not, don't eat it. Right? It's a simple one, but if there is something good on the table, right? If there is something good on the table, are we going to say no? I don't know. It takes a lots of courage and lots of discipline to get to that. But definitely through practice and through gradually, I'm sure it is. We are all going to be there. Well, Permanar always gives us a holistic view of how everything is, and gets to the nitty gritty of stuff, and tells what is really good, what are the characteristics, what are the attributes each and every food has. And there are some things which we want to definitely point, and which we definitely want to take a look, and which every Sanmari kind of knows too. About this herb called Karisalai or Karisalankanni, which we would have seen it. So I have a picture up there. which you can see with the white flower in the right side, in the right bottom. That's Karisalangani, which lots of people might have seen it. And to my surprise, this just grows in farms in India, just by itself. I don't know who put it, it just goes all over the place. And the picture about that shows like those are the seeds. Those are the seeds which can be used for sowing it later. You can plant it later, uh, so it grows. It's a plant which grows very easily, and it's susceptible to lots of factors. It can take hit, cold weather, hot weather. I'm not sure about, it can grow in snow, but pretty cold weather, it can still sustain and it will grow. So about this herb, Karsilangani, Permanar actually tells about this, goes about on this herbs in great detail. He says that even if you are serving a saint or rishi for a long term, he's not going to share his experience about this herb, is what he's saying. He's not going to give all the details or all the advantages of this herb to you. If you had served him for 5 years or 7 years or 10 years, you're not going to know about it. God has revealed it to me, so I'm saying that to you. So this is how Permanar has done in multiple occasions. He just says what God has given Arutperumjothi, or what he had learned from him, what he knows through him is what he conveys it directly. No tinkering of it. In also Jnanasariyai, he says, நான் உரைக்கும் வார்த்தையெல்லாம் நாயகன் தந்த வார்த்தை. So whatever I am uttering is those of him. So I'm saying what he's saying, what Arutperumjothi is saying. And then he also, in another line says, why I'm saying is because I sympathize on you, because I want you to attain the purity of how I am. He wants us to be in his stage. That is the reason why he is doing all this. It's just the sole purpose of that is basically to get us all to be like him. That's what he wanted us to do. So about this herb Karsilangani, what's the recommended way is to cook with food. We can use it in dal. We just have to put a little bit of the leaves, or you can do it like a spinach dal. That's also good. Or if not possible, right? If you aren't able to eat it, what's he recommending is basically to consume it green. So just eat it green on a daily basis. The reason why this thing is more important is it helps us the longevity of the inner body. Like before the satsangam, how Nagarajaya was pointing to Annamaya Kosham, Manomaya Kosham, and then there are like Anandamaya Kosham and so forth, right? The inner bodies of it. It helps us. So we are feeding the inner body using Karisalangani. And then it strengthens the body, it strengthens the physical body and increases our longevity. So it gives us, it helps us to live longer. So that's a great thing to do. So that's important. And for the spiritual aspirants, it helps us in salvation. So so people practicing it spiritually, from my understanding, when he says that the rishis or the saints weren't revealing the truth of it, so it tells us that how important it is helping them when someone is practicing spirituality, when someone is trying to get enlightened, someone's trying to get salvation, this herb helps us. And then the last actually is saying like, oh, we could actually make it as a paste. We can make it as a paste and rub it on the inner tongue, or it's called the sirunaku, or the palate, what we have actually, the projection inside the mouth, which basically, when we start rubbing it, this actually have to say it is initially not easy to follow through experience, uh, but as we continue doing it, you would you would you would see a good difference in the way breathing goes and the way you feel and things like that. But as the paste is rubbed on it, actually in a gentle manner, you would start like a gluey substance, right, coming off of your hand, right, and you have to open your mouth. You have to open your mouth and then rub it up, and then once you might feel like you're going to throw up. That is another sensation which normally people get when doing this, but it's all for good. I haven't thrown up yet, but throwing up is also good actually. uh, so it basically takes care of our kabam and pitta too. And then he also says it actually this is for people who basically are beauty conscious. It actually gives a glow to the face. So that's also been said about this particular herb, Karslangani, or I think they also called as a Brahmaraj in Hindi. I think mostly they use for as a hair oil, but it is consumable. It is consumable very well. Okay. Uh, so the next herb, actually, the another important herb, what we are we are going to see now is Tuduvalai. Have the botanical name in there as well. So in case if you want to buy or uh, if you want to, like eBay and multiple other vendors, can sell it. You can search in Google and try to get the powder or get the plant or either way. So these are some things which you can't find it on a regular basis, especially outside the country. So that's the reason why I want to put a picture there, so we can also see that we are not getting the we are not getting the wrong one, because there have been instances where there have been misdirections, like, oh, this plant is this plant is that, but in reality, it is not. So it's always better to use the picture for verification and also the botanical name to make sure that it is good. So this plant, Tuduvalai, is a little bit sensitive compared with Kaisalangani from what I've seen. And this plant actually wasn't able to survive the cold weathers. It probably is a tropical plant, but when it gets cold, when the temperature actually falls, then there are challenges with this plant. But talking about this plant, this helps us in concentration. So it's definitely good for a person who is from the spiritual angle to concentrate when doing meditation, or also for kids too, right? To focus on their work. Um, it also increases the capacity. So basically, when normally we concentrate, our we learn a lot and our knowledge increases. But the only herb which I had seen across, which eases our mind, which helps us relax naturally, is this herb, right? Karanam oivadakum. He points it out. So this herb actually eases our mind. So it definitely helps us to focus and to control our thought, to regulate our thought in a manner. This is definitely a good one. And then it's also used for it's used to get rid of the phlegm which we have. So if we have cold, we use it in the form of rasam on soup. When getting cold, or even during your normal rasam, we can actually use this thing. So it actually relieves. It actually takes the phlegm out of the respiratory tract, so you feel better. So in India too, actually, this is used a lot at the time of cold. So this is a point, which helps us in case if we have cold. And I don't have this one too. There's another one called as Musumusukai, which Perumal says that too, which is good for coughing too. So Musumusukai, that's good for coughing. But this is one most important thing which everybody says. You say like, yeah, I know about it. Why? Yeah, salt is not good for health. It deteriorates our body faster. Perumal says that very clear. It deteriorates your body. It actually, he says, even like we have to be very careful with salt too, and so does the scientific community too, right? Which says like, oh, there is, but salts are coming in various different forms. It's not just sodium chloride these days. There are multiple other salts which is being used in processed food. But as long as we are staying with a non-processed food, we'd be okay with it. But getting into processed food is where we have to think about a different kind of salts which they use as a preservative, or they could use as an addictive too. There are lots of salts which can be used as an addictive. So we definitely in chips for the most part, which basically drives our craving towards it, and we want to eat more, right? We can't stop eating it. We don't even feel full while eating it, right? You can eat two or even a three, and still you can go for it, right? But if you do that at home, it'll be a totally different experience. You can try it, right? Okay. So how do we take the fault from the salt? How do we fix the salt and make it better for our consumption, right? So this one can be done by frying the salt in a pan. So we take a pan and then we fry the rock salt in it. So the rock salt is fried in a pan until it turns to a golden color, and it gets pretty hot at the time. It gets pretty hot at the time. So we let it cool it down, and then that can be consumed later. So this is good. So what happens here is it removes the bitter taste. I think is what is causing the problem in the salt, and it removes not the taste but the toxins associated with it. Siddhas has been using multiple methods of it, using different kind of herbs. Some of uh, some of them could be like if you have heard of kupameni, which uh, like the name suggests, right? It's not like a trash herb, but it actually takes the trash out of us, is how the name says, kupaimeni. But those or murunga leaves, right, can be used at the end of the frying. At the end of the frying, that could be used, and when it turns black, actually, what you can do is you can actually blow them off, so you get only the salt. So the idea is basically the goodness of the herbs getting to the salt, and this absorbs These herbs absorb the bad parts from it. We try this one at home too, but I'm sure frying works better too. So water. So with water, let me do a time check. Um, we Okay, well, we can stop with this maybe, or maybe go for 5 minutes. So, with water, actually, we have to be cautious on water these days too. When thinking about water, chlorines, chloramines, lots of stuff getting added to this water as well. But Perumal gives us what is best in water, is he saying? Like water from the ground, utrinir, right? Water, rainwater, and then the water which we are getting it from the dew. So the dew water is nothing but the water. When we wake up in the morning on a winter, you would have seen dew collections on the leaves. Mostly in banana leaves, you can see the dew formations. So either we could collect those water. So if we look at the method which is being suggested here to collect those dews for consumption, so it's a tough one. It's not an easy one to do, but rainwater and groundwater are something which are practical, which can be definitely done. And they are they are ambrosia, or what he calls as nectars. So this is the direct nectar from what we are getting from Mother Earth. So it is important, we try to actually um, take a look back at what we are drinking and make sure we are drinking the water. So he also says that in case if we can, this water still have to be boiled and reduced from 5 to 2 or 5 to 3 ratio. And there's an explanation behind it too, right? Permana is more scientific. He tells what's the reason behind it. There are three layers in the water components. So the outer layer is the toxin layer. The middle layer is the devil layer, and the layer underneath it is called as the nectar layer or the amudabhagam, he refers to as. And these three layers are there, and we have to make sure when uh, we have to make sure that at the time of boiling water, when it is the ratio of 2 to 3, it gets to the part that we are drinking only the nectar out of the water, and avoiding all other layers. And water is something spiritually is used in lots of it's used in lots of areas, even while chanting mantras. Not in Hinduism, it's used in Christianity, it's used in Jewism and all those things. Water has the power for absorption. There are lots of scientific researches on water, which says that the molecules of water changes when the thoughts are good and when chanting happens too. So the vibration has an impact on it. So feel free to do the researches on those things. There's a Japanese scientist who did a research on water molecules and how it changes when we say good stuff. That's how he was referring to. Or we are talking good things. The water molecule has something related with it. The structure of it is getting changed, is what he's saying. But when correlating back to what the mantras or what it is, or what it is according to our elders talking about. Uh, and then even some traditions, right? If you go home, the first thing what they give you is water, right? They give you water. So it's a very important thing that we look into water and see how we can consume and how we can make use of it. So rice, oh my god, rice. Rice is our daily food. We definitely want to know about it. Perumal is so compassionate about us. He starts saying how to cook rice too. The one thing which he hasn't done is cooking for us. So he had pretty much said everything here. So how to cook rice? So we I think you use cooker a lot, and then some people strain the water from the rice, which has been the traditional process is straining of rice. But we use cookers, or we basically just put it in a pot, and we let it boil, but we don't strain the water. But that's not the right way to do it. We have to strain the water from rice. That's the best thing to do it. And the reason what's given is it has oil in it, and it leads to tamas. So that is the reason, as pointed by Permanar, on why rice needs to be stained at the time of cooking. And the recommended rice here is Siraga Samba. Siraga Samba is an aromatic rice. It has great aroma, like how basmati is, which we know about. And when cooking too, it's important. What's recommended is the rice should not be mushy, meaning like kolayirudhu, or it can be hard. You don't feel the toughness when biting it too. So it has to be the perfect consistency. So cooking rice here is also an art. So the right has to be also perfect in here. When looking into the rice, you might have also know that in uh, in in uh, in the world, in the scientific world, people suggest basmati rice actually having a low glycemic index. So glycemic index is the measure of release of sugar level to the bloodstream. So if there is a spike in the glycemic index, then you'd have a bigger number. So a low glycemic index would have a gradual, slow level of releasing sugar into the bloodstream. So I think lots of people are aware that basmati has a low glycemic index, but voila, surprise! Uh, Siraga Samba too. Siraga Samba has a low glycemic index too. When doing the research, this is what I can find it too. So it is having a low glycemic index compared with even brown rice, pony rice, or multiple other rice which I had seen. So which is good for diabetes, or people with type 2 diabetes, I think. So with that being said, we we are actually coming towards the time. So let's stop here, and we'll go for question and answer. But before that, anything which I had in my research or in my understanding, I had misspoken or missaid, it's definitely my fault. Or anything which everyone gets out of it is what's through Permana's grace. With that, I end, and thank you very much. Arutperumjothi, Arutperumjothi, Taniperum Karunai, Arutperumjothi.